So, Miss Prosecutor, I contact you on base of how embassies work to coerce and block people over bribes and cry they are hacked or get threats. Um, that was done by people like Selena and Tina and June, who offered threesomes and papers that they so-called could participate. But that also led to a massive attack in France on many people of the United States and the UK, as both head of Secret Service, Tina Mendacini, and head of MI6, Linda Carter, were two bitches who were trading all over and played the same loop and played ball to each other's country. Then we also grabbed one of the higher of Canada, a friend of Lydia, who she never expected would do it. And in Australia, they want to play the same ball as the ambassador here of The Hague, of Australia, has a gorgelsletje, as I call them. They literally come suck dick for brown envelope cash. They don't report to the IRS or the taxes, so they can put it on their own account. That goes to an account abroad, that's Belgium or Swiss or Honduras, to a credit card with a hack in the bank system, so they can live lavish in their own country while taking cash with that credit card, and it's never been reported or investigated, as they are self-investigating this shit. So that's also what they give to those ambassadors. Now, in Finland, my wife died, and Jessica Doolittle was an agent of NSA, and she was hostage there together with Cheryl Ann Tweedy, who was working for MI6. So her kitty was kidnapped, just like our son was kidnapped and ransom paid for. So I immediately warned MI6. She was being violated in the base Rovaniemi, not even a few days after Fabiana died, and I found her November 21. So the Russians, since all our kids, Luisa, Julius, Elias, and Anissa, were injected with a Zivlok Prisma, were able to be found over my ping, because I have been violated with a Zivlok in 2003. And that is serial number 129. Now I'm going to tell you, ma'am, I destroyed the collector. And the big boy, as the laptop from that shit, was stalled in Nevada. That exploded April 2021. Tina wanted to create a loop as that she couldn't hack, but this she already sold, as this was the EMC of her daddy, who she helped kill, as she had a boyfriend called Michel de Vlieger. She also had a baby with him, his DNA. The paper that she had stated that it was my DNA, as Tropical Institute of Antwerp sampled my DNA and injected in females and claimed that I did it. Rape. Now that was nice, because they wanted the royal status and the name, and they wanted to persecute. But this was from the twinsies of Fabiana Middleton, Anna Maria Paixão, who now is called Middleton. Now, I planted her in severe protection, together with Ronnie, as they attacked my mama-in-law in April 2021. And a week later, Elias blasted in the base in Nevada, together with the big boy, but also together with all my emotional memories of me and my wife. And then they dared overbribe to put another body on top of my wife in DC Memorial State. And they thought later disappear, as they were ID thefting her in Belgium under Maria Middleton. What I already reported December 2018, as I saw her Facebook change and her star maker disappear. Now, the Dick, her ex, her forcer, who attacked her in 2007 after this was injected from her twinsies, came over June in the United States and had a Secret Service house over Tina Mendacini. John McClane was his name at that point, because they always work with so-called aliases. They also are so-called National Security Belgium. And they were not. They were simply fucking idiots, terrorists, backed up by politicians. Now, the loop that they play on embassies, at the point that my wife died, and I knew Jessica was hostage, and they planted me in a hospital, I contacted the US Embassy, and the US Embassy didn't reply. Also not for a US citizen, and I was working for Secret Service under alias ex-Dave Henry Murvis. But Tina already thought I did have that with Swavanaker. She gave an apartment across our apartment, which was Mother Goose 1, Simon Caliente 1A3. 1A4 was given to Swavanaker, a so-called Axel or ex-Dave Henry Murvis. And that came over Belgium. The moment that my wife got her key, and she already was violated June 2017, they started identity theft her over Amina Kadri with that same passport, offering her to politicians in Finland. And there was a mail sent out, nice clean motive, this bitch is next, from Sportpaleis server Antwerp. Immediately. Then they published us making love and said that she was a whore. And we got civilian disturbance, as they used audio solutions for that, video solutions, email, Star Maker, every app connected to her to offer her ass as a prostitute. And then Timo, her so-called ex, who wanted to be Charles Middleton, started threatening her she was already dead. She just didn't know it yet, and her kids too. And she better watch out what she plays on the internet, because he knew more than she did, as he planted the shit on the internet. But then they could accuse her of being easy. And that was together with Sportpaleis. Now, they did the same in my name, as you understand, I get broadcasted too. Now, when I contacted the embassy, they didn't reply. That took 6 weeks. They stole my ID card November 15 while buying a new phone. I still have that, that's a grey one, Samsung. As my S8 or A8 was broken, and that had the phone number of Fabiana in it and all our WhatsApp communication, including all those messages and the threats that Timo, aka Charles van Akker, did. That was a Belgian ID theft fraud, a terrorist, against her and the kids. Also slapped her and raped her, and that was all on the WhatsApp communication. Now, what they wanted was the cash that they already stole in the case of 2014 on Amina Kadri and me, that I reported and we won, as I faxed it over my mom's house. Now, Amina was used with the passport of Fabiana, and Fabiana was raped June 2017 after so-called going out with her ex. So she woke up half naked in the woods in Ticorilla, and she walked home crying in her underwear and just a top, because the rest was missing. And the next day she went back and she found a tie and her panties back. And she also knew who did it. And he never said a word, because she couldn't press charges. So she asked a new passport, took her fingerprints and everything in the embassy of Finland of the United States. And a year and 2 months later, she still didn't have her passport yet. And then all of a sudden she gets kidnapped, and then they give the passport to the backup. Now, ma'am, you have to explain me how a dead female gets a passport donated to the backup. So they most likely picked it up because she died, but then they start using it because it has an expiration date of 10 years. And they so-called integrated her in Belgium. That goes together with the bank Liana or something connected to Manhattan with a so-called 150 million on human rights cash that was paid over the so-called one court. The loop that they played back then, finally answer, and then say, you are not a US citizen, sir, I can't help you, while I was working for the United States. And then you have the silence treatment that Tina also played. They give you 1/10 of information and 9/10 they don't give, but meanwhile they fuck you in the ass and they try to put your life completely upside down. And that was backed up by the head of Secret Service, by the head of MI6, and by some bitches from Canada. Now, Tina was already reported a fraud in 2018 by Lydia, and Lydia was wanted, and everybody who fights against that is wanted. That includes judges and courts, and sorry to say, but don't have to give a few examples, but the judge who did our case, she lost her sister and 2 kids, killed by Michelle, who identified, and Steve, who identified, and Alexander, who identified in Strasbourg. That, together with creating civilian disturbance, putting their horse on the street, forced females, they kidnapped, and they thought, let's create chaos and distraction. Meanwhile, we go for the full family of the judge, and they started threatening her. But I had phone calls with her, anonymous, in the court itself, and explained the situation. They started using that. And Tina started crying that I was involved, because she wanted to play that loop already, and that didn't work because I won court. So what did they do, ma'am? They steal my identity card in Belgium, push me on the street for forcing my mom, threatening my mom. And I go to a block, they steal my ID card, they go to National Bank and they open a bank account because the UN Rights Court asked my bank to the Belgian federal government. And they pay the fine to the Human Rights Court, and the Human Rights Court pays the fine to the National Bank, not my bank. Michelle opened it with my ID card. I never asked to open a fucking bank. I had KBC. They did the same on Fabiana. They did the same on Julius. They did the same on Alisa. And they did the same on so many other. Even people that were locked up for a night for drunk, like Charlie Sheen. So he has a bank account in the Swiss with his passport. That's exactly with a copy of that. They go then open a bank account there, abroad, always abroad. On that bank account, they drop fraud cash, money laundered. That's connected to a credit card, and that then goes over the taxes. Always shit that they can self-investigate, or so-called is investigating, so they can live lavish over that shit. So you have a serious problem with loop and Banksies in the system. Also a serious loop with ambassadors crying and bitching that they are so-called hacked and threatened, meanwhile taking brown envelope cash from that kind and coerce people like me. And then you report that to the National Security of Australia or MI6 like Richard Moore, and you don't get any reply back except fucking Ionic. And if I say Ionic retard is Ionic retard, that shit is retard. That's all sold already by Linda Carter and by Tina Mendacini, and everything that was working in Canada was already sold by that one bitch that also set up Lydia. So what's left? Can you explain me? Because there's nothing left except regular phone call or email. And they don't. They leave you in the dark. So for certain reasons I left US Secret Service as the involvement of the murder of my wife and MI6. And I said, I don't ever want to work with you again. And I get hired by UN over Ionic, over an Olivia McLeod, who is attacked September 2017. 21. Now, she ordered a boat for me to live on in Calais. And that was delivered to a whole fraud team that came in the same way as the ICC judge. They come identify you, so-called, and then they go there. Meanwhile, Olivia was being raped and violated, and she had to give the boat to these guys. And that boat ended up with shit in Kilkeen in Ireland. And if I tell you now, man, that there are a lot of retards from Belgium, they are flagged and they are taken care of by the government or the healthcare system over an attorney as they are incompetent, and they have an apartment over a psychiatrist somewhere in Cortenbury or Lear or whatever, and then they end up in houses in Ireland, in the UK and wherever, where students got attacked, and that always goes over Belgium, because that's the first round where everything goes to, and the key is there too, just like the apartment across our door in Finland. How did they end up there? Because they always have that fraud passport. But that takes bribe to the whole police station. Also for a fake license plate on the car, of the stolen car, also abroad, that they have, and then they're gonna act like James Bond. So they literally think, own your ass. That's commune paid by politicians, life nations, businesses and more. Because they love to money launder too, of course, and they also do it over abroad countries, and always 3 or 4. So when the show was going on here in Zigodome, we found a loop from United States, Spain, Ireland. A day later, United States again, Poland, and France. Then you understand that's 2 shows from 1 artist. 5 countries. How they play ball in your face while you try to investigate it. But meanwhile, the cash goes in Swiss or on other bank accounts and over civilian bank accounts that they swap. And that's done by accountants of big organizations like Live Nation. And with participation of the venues. That venue, that venue, that venue, and that venue. As they all have their accountants. Promoters, they call themselves. Respectful businessmen. Respectful businesses. That's also how Trump worked. So when you go to the embassy and you ask a passport or you ask help, in 2018 they said to me, you are not a US citizen yet, but I was a valid agent. In 2021 or 2023, when I came here and was sent over the UK government to the embassy in Den Haag after explaining my situation, and they did a valid check and they see my social security and they see everything and they redirect me immediately with the ambassadrice they said from the The Hague Embassy, as France didn't even reply. They were claiming that I was contacting the Belgian embassy, and I contacted gov.uk, which is sitting in the British government, but also the American one. But that was still under control by TNM in the city of Michigan. So they thought play a loop, not only steal my bank card and steal my passports, actually sold. Tina sold everything. 3 times. 1 time June, 1 time Selena, 1 time Tina. That's a set of 3. Linda sold 145, and meanwhile all the employees of MI6, because she wanted to do the same what Amina did to my wife with that passport of 10-year validation date. Now that passport of my wife in 2007, as she was forced already there for like, that was from 2007. It was 2017. So her passport was stolen on the moment that she had to renew it. And that would be easy with your passport. So they literally blocked her ass, started identity theft in her already with almost expired passport, and then actually changed it over identity fraud on the expiration date of 10 years, with the help of Tina Mendesini, her so-called backup, who also had my passport and many other people's passports. Now then you have embassies who start blocking you at their door, as you are so-called not found in the system after a redirected phone call. That they call a template. When they get questions asked and they start saying, oh, I want to help him further, I am tricked, I was hacked, it's always something. But remember, they take brown envelope cash. And meanwhile, when they want to generate time by doing that ball, your ass is being tracked. Now, the Australian embassy already worked the same. I already knew that. And I already saw that in Finland. I saw that in Belgium. I saw that in France. And I saw that here in Holland. How many people are still blocked? Now, I work cans. We call it cans. That I pay my data for. That costs me internet. 14 euros a week. That's on Australian dollars, 25, something like that. Do you think Australia reimburses my shit or even answers on when I send a text to them? Because you can email but also text, and I want to link my phone there, and I am an Australian citizen since December 10, 2022. They offer me. I buy an apartment there. I can't even get to my apartment, or don't even get paper, don't get a house, don't get nothing, and we were attacked as well. So the UK embassy didn't only deny the help because we were attacked with a screwdriver at night, as they thought to make me look like a bum, after the United States loses all their apartments. UK loses all their apartments, and that was all sold by Tina Mendesini and Linda Carter. And then they lose all UN apartments over attacks on Gillian and over Olivia MacLeod. Also with payments to the United States from the UN organization itself. So for that reason I disconnected my contract for serious misconduct. Still a diplomat, but I live in a caravan. We were able to buy a caravan for $255, and on a piece of ground that with approval of the economical owner, because this was normally ground where they would build student buildings on, and we were lucky to stay here, or we could sleep on the fucking street in Den Haag, as they refused to give a house on a diplomat, and they refused to start a procedure 5-day departure. For that reason I left UK. Now Australia has a little chance if they do not step up, or they do not fucking phone call, or they do not fucking send cash, as I'm a widower and I can literally contact nobody, as my wife died and she's replaced the Buckingham Palace, and my daddy-in-law is in security, and my sister-in-law is in security, and my whole family is genocided. So who is gonna help me out? So Muriel has a BNP Paribas account and a bank account, and she can accept cash. You can wire. We can use. I can pay paperwork, but we need the paper for her too, because she was a witness as well, ain't it? So the ICC judge was taking care of everything, and we immediately had a fraud team spotting for everything from Australia, and that's fraud cops, and a dick with MI6 bitches forced with even mini cars from so-called Secret Service or MI6, like they steal all the time. And that dick went to the ICC judge and said, we identified him, give us the shit, because he wanted to give a house and a car and cash, a credit card. Now that credit card went to the UN, the UK, with 0.10 cents on it or something like that, because the ICC judge was kidnapped and he was threatened immediately. So if you get threats, then you understand all the judges that already are attacked working on the case, like Judge Dinozo, who lost her brother, sister, and 2 kids. Then we have the ICC judge, who lost an eye. Then we have the female from 2014 who didn't just lose her sister and 2 kids, but also a colleague in 2018 who paid 150 million for the case of the DNA, as my DNA was visible in Fabiana, and that was not Michelle's DNA or the kid of Tina Mendocino who so-called in the paper that it was my kid. It was not my DNA. Now then you have a Selena that thought, let's play another loop. She was fucking done, and they thought to do another ID swap or DNA swap. But I have sent my DNA to UK, I have sent my fingerprints to UK, and I have sent my dental and all to UK. Now, who's gonna help? Who's gonna do a cash drop, or give a fucking regular phone call, or maybe an email with valid showable evidence that I go to the embassy and that motherfucker can go no single way and also not complain or cry to generate extra time, because that's what they do. I hope you understand, because I literally want answers, and I also want my logins back, because they try to stall it until 5 years, and after 5 years Google thinks you're dead and then they start locking your shit down. That is Fabiana Middleton, who died. Yeah, and that's in evidence. When it's in evidence and it gets locked down because they die, then I hope you immediately take a fucking good backup, and that I get a backup, because when I don't get that shit, the world is gonna be too small, and some people literally are gonna hurt, no matter for what organization they work. And then I hope it's approved by court, because you will see they will be involved and took brown envelopes for it. I wish you a good day. Axel out.